start with myself. So basically, my name is Aditya, and I have over 10 years of experience in SAP. And categorically, I have around 7 years of experience in SAP MDG and MDM. Uh, I can say I have started MDG in the year, let's say 2012, and earlier I was working on MDM and as well as ABAP. Okay, so I basically started my career as an ABAPer. So in particularly MDG, uh, I have worked various domains like material, customer, supplier, finance, and I have worked for uh, consumer goods, manufacturing, defense, agricultural. So these are all different various kind of projects, and uh, and particularly I have also worked on, as I just mentioned, uh, that related to the material, that means data model, and related to customer and supplier, including business partner, that is BP, and finance. And this is a very short, brief introduction from my end. So down the line, whenever it is required, I will give any further introduction or any further details. So yeah, one more thing before I just hand over this introduction part. So basically, as I just mentioned that I have started my career as an ABAPA, and then I moved to MDM and MDG. Presently, I'm working as an architect, but it does not mean that I don't deal with technical and functional. So particularly, I'm also deal with technical, functional, architect. So I have expertise on every different department as far as MDG and MDM is concerned. Now, coming to our particular agenda, as I just mentioned that technical, functional, and architect, I have all kind of experience to deal with various projects. So the way the agenda has been prepared, so if you want to focus yourself as a technical consultant on MDG, or categorically functional and architect role, so in all three aspects, our agenda will be covered. Okay. Anyway, regarding the agenda and all, we will talk about in detail. So this is a brief from my side. I just want to know couple of things. Don't mention your organization. Only two things I need to understand, that is how many years of experience you have, and particularly on SAP. And second thing is which module you belongs to, because this is very important for me to understand. If I understand my audience, then based on that, I will drive the rest of the session. Okay. So this is the two information I just need. So if anybody can start, let's start with Avinash.
Hi, my name is Avinash. I have 6 years of experience. I am into SAP ABAP.
Thanks, Avinash. Yeah, then Mrinal.
The SAP ABAP and working on right now.
Okay, thanks. Uh, Next, Raja.
Hi, Aditya. I'm working as a senior ABAP consultant. Basically, I belongs to HR ABAP. So currently, I'm working as a senior consultant in my company. I take care of ECC. Previously, I have good exposure on FPM. for one of the assignment. I've done HCM process and forms, HR forms.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mm, Next, Samir.
Hi, I am Samir. I have 4 plus experience in web done to above in STMM area.
Okay, thank you. So that means this is very clear that my today's audience are basically from the technical side, and this is a plus point. Okay, plus point for me, plus point for everybody. Because why I'm saying plus point, that if you have the above background, then it is quite easy for you to take up this MDG. But it does not mean who doesn't know ABAP, for them it will be a little different story. No, not at all. Uh, I will try in a way in this particular agenda to explain that we have a different chapters, and based on the different chapter, what exactly the different chapter demands, your technical skills, your functional skills, etc. So based on that, you will at the end of the agenda, you will come to know that why ABAP is always an advantage. Okay, but it does not mean that if you don't know ABAP, then MDG is not your cake. So it's not like that. Okay, so let's move into the agenda. So let me share my screen. Okay, please let me know if you can see my screen. Can you able to see my screen?
Yes, Aditya.
Okay. So I do believe that when we are gathered to discuss something, it is very important that we should have one agenda. Otherwise, our discussion will go in a different direction. So that's the reason I prepared this agenda. Now, the very first thing which comes in mind, okay, you have an agenda, but whether this agenda is relevant as far as the real-time project is concerned, because we have to be practical at the end of the day. Whatever we are learning, whether it is having the real use in the uh, mm, in the real-time project. So my answer for this particular question is that if you go to any job portal, and in job portal you search with SAP MDG, and you go to the job description. In the description, whatever the content you can see, compare the content with our agenda, and you will see 99% agenda will be the same. Okay, means the job description and our agenda is 99% same, because this is the end-to-end MDG, what exactly we are looking for. Starting from introduction, data model. So basically these are all different, uh, I can say, segments in MDG. Introduction, data model, then we have process model, then UI modeling, then search and duplicate check, then workflow modeling, validations and derivations, data replication and import, and enrichment. Enrichment chapter. The idea of having the enrichment chapter is because recently, if I talk about from MDG 9.0 onwards, or rather I say 9 point, sorry, MDG 8.0 onwards, there are some new topic has been introduced, like for an example, consolidation, new data model like EAM. So these are all purely a new topic, and not every project use those activity. So I will touch upon those activity as well, and obviously with a proper explanation, demonstration, etc. So it will be easy for you to understand what exactly that is. So whenever you will have opportunity, so you can utilize that experience. So now let me start with, so the question is like, usually people have a lot of questions related to MDG, like how much time it is required to complete this session, uh, and mm, regarding each and every you know each and every small topic. So I think if you listen to me, end-to-end agenda, and then I will open the floor. And by this time, I hope 80% of your questions which you have at this moment in your mind will be answered. But still, if you have like rest 20% or 30% question, then that we will discuss, and we will have a round of conversation. So before I start the agenda, how much time it takes basically? Uh, Normally we define this course is required minimum 40 to 45 hours. Okay, because we have to uh, mm, hear whatever the agenda you see. First of all, we believe in practical. I don't believe in theoretical, honestly speaking, because until and unless you make your hands dirty, you cannot understand, or you cannot expertise on a specific skill set. Okay, so whatever the chapter you are seeing here, everything we will do in a proper practical way. So we will prepare different demonstrations, and based on those different demonstrations, we will understand the the particular topic, the particular chapter. Okay. So let me start. And before I start, I can see Pratap has joined. Hi, Pratap. Can you able to hear me? Pratap?
Hello, Aditya, can I hear you? Hello.
Okay. Okay. So you can see my screen, right?
Yes, Aditya.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So let me start this. Uh, mm, so the first in our agenda, the first topic is, or the first chapter is SAP MDG Introduction. So in this particular chapter, what we are covering, we are basically covering the fundamental of MDG. So first of all, we have to understand what is MDG, why we are here to learn MDG. We have ABAP, we have many other modules. Why we need MDG? Why industry is demanding MDG? So the simple answer is, so basically, if you see, uh, if I just bring you back 20 years or 25 years, that time having the data was a challenge, or gathering the data was a challenge for any kind of industry, whether it is banking, whether it is consumer goods, whether it is manufacturing, whatever it is. But over the period of time, what happened? The technology has been advanced, and we not only have the data, also we started to classify the data. Like we have a different type of data like customer master data, material master data, vendor master data, finance master data. Not only that, under the customer master data, we also classify deeply. Like we have company code, sales org. For material, we have characteristics, classifications, then plant details, then warehouse details, etc., etc. Then Vendor master data, we have company code, we have purchase org. Then finance master data, we have company, we have profit center, we have cost center, profit center group, cost center group, general ledger. So we classified as much as possible in a deeper way. Okay, so that means it is very clear that technology helps industry to classify the data in a proper manner. But the question is that we have model like SAP SD, SAP MM, SAP ABAP. So these are all model deal with those master data, right? Then why MDG? Now the real reason is, let's say if I start with a simple example, like when we create a material with the transaction MM01, we just go to this transaction, fill the data and submit it. And then what happened? Then the data goes to the database, update the database table. Okay. Now, here is the problem. Now, whatever the data I'm creating, whether it is right, wrong, whether it is required for my industry, no one is there to validate. Now you can say, okay, we have SAP workflow. Why can't we use SAP workflow? Exactly. So we need to use a certain framework which will help in order to validate those details which I'm creating, I'm changing, I'm doing the mark for deletion, I'm doing block unblock activity, I'm doing mass change, mass update, multiple processing, etc. So everything has to be validated. So the number one point I can say, the reason behind to have this MDG to make the process transparent. Then the next question is, okay, if that is the case, that I need a workflow, then why SAP MDG? Why not SAP workflow? By using the SAP workflow through transaction SWDD, I can easily create the workflow. Then why I need MDG? The reason is, in SAP workflow, we deal with a simple workflow. So when you deal with the simple workflow, in order to validate the data, in order to validate the movement of the workflow, it is not so easy. So in SAP MDG, we deal with the advanced approach, that is rule-based workflow. By using the rule-based workflow, we not only create the workflow, or we not only manage the workflow, also we include the business rules, the data validations, the data derivations. So it's a business rule including the workflow. Sorry. So, so it's just not a workflow. It's a workflow including the business rule. And what is the advantage of it? Advantage is, if you want to validate any certain data while your workflow is processing, or you want based on a certain particular information, the workflow will go to Mr. A or Mr. B or Mr. C. Those things you can manipulate very easily. Okay, so that is the second point, that is having the rule-based workflow rather than the simple workflow. Then the next thing is, as I just mentioned, the advanced data validations. So the level of data validations we have, it is not only on workflow or not only as per as the business rule, also when you are doing data replication, when you are importing some data in MDG, that time also you can perform the the perfect validations. And we use feeder class enhancement, different type of service body enhancement, rule body enhancement. With those specific body or with those specific feeder class, we basically validate a very extreme level in the MDG framework. Okay. And the next point is the data duplication. So if you see that any industry you take, whether it is a consumer good, whether it is a manufacturing, whether it is a banking, every industry having the duplicate record. No one can say that I don't have duplicate records. Every industry has. So what will be our objective? The deduplication. Now, the question is whether one organization can have zero duplicate record. The answer is no, you cannot have. You must have the duplicate record. But there is a certain limit. There is a certain classified record which can be allowed as a duplicate record. Let's say for an example, you want to create material and you have the basic fields like material type, industry sector, material group, description, classification, and characteristics, unit of measure. So let's say material A having type, unit of measure, industry sector, group. Material B also having the same details. Then I can say they both are similar. They both are duplicate materials, but it's not, because their characteristics are different. Their classifications are different. So they are the unique material. However, few basic fields are same, like type, unit of measure, industry sector. But if you see deeply, the classification and characteristics are different. So you cannot say that I do not have any potential duplicate record in my framework. You must have, and you should have, in fact, but you should try to deduplicate the record as much as possible. If you have, like, if the same example, if I carry on, if you have the same classification and characteristics with the same basic details for material A and B, then I can say that it is 100% potential duplicate record. That is not allowed. That we need to identify and we need to discard. So that this is something where MDG is playing a very big role. So MDG is offering a certain data duplication method, and obviously you can customize further along with the standard one. So those methods or those mechanism will help you to deduplicate your master data. So these are all 3-4 major points. If I tell you from a very top of the things, that's what MDG is more demanding than just dealing the things through normal SAP ABAP or normal SAP workflow with the help of SD, MM, and FICO. That's what MDG comes into the picture. Now the question is whether MDG is the first product on master data? No. As far as SAP is concerned, MDM was the first product. As far as master data management and governance is concerned, MDM, it sounds like master data management, but it does not means it does not have capability to govern the data. It does. It also does the data validations, deduplications, everything what we just talked about, what MDG offering, MDM is also offering the same. Then what is the difference? The difference is, if you see, in MDM, we have a different tools like console, data manager, import manager, syndicator. And in MDG, as I just mentioned, we have data model, process model, UI model, workflow, data validations and derivations, search and duplicate check, and data replication and import. So you can see the differences. The segments are completely different. The dealing the things in order to maintain and govern the master data is completely different. And the two other major point are, one is MDM written on C, C++, where MDG written on SAP ABAP. Secondly, MDM does not deal with HANA database. MDG deal with HANA database. And the third point is, as I just mentioned, that process. If you see, the MDM process and MDG process are completely different. Okay, so that is the difference between MDM and MDG. Now probably you can think that why we are discussing MDM. We are here to talk about MDG. The reason is that without understand MDM, I'm not talking about deep understanding, but at least what is MDM, what is MDM is offering, we cannot understand MDG, because uh, what is going to happen when you are going to deal with customer, and particularly in RFP phases, your customer will suddenly throw a question, why can't we go with MDM? Then you may not have the potential answer to satisfy them. Okay, so that's the only reason. There is no other reason. You are not going to write anything on MDM, or you are not going to develop anything on MDM. You are completely focusing on MDG. But that's the only reason you should know the origin of MDG. So first MDM came and then MDG. So if you see from the architectural point of view, MDM and MDG, they both are having the same architecture. But as I just mentioned, there are some difference in terms of processes, in terms of like MDM background is C, C++, MDG ABAP, etc., etc. Now the question is, what is the future of MDM? As far as SAP is concerned, uh, I can see one new member has joined. Krish, can you able to hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I'm able
Okay. So can you please mute yourself? Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay. So we just started
Aditya, Aditya, Raja.
we just started
So,
the discussion. So okay, yeah. Tell me.
yeah, if I have any questions in between, we were no demo.
Raja,
So,
I would like to say yes, definitely. So I would like to say, because I'm in a proper flow in order to discuss this. Uh, I would like to request everybody, uh, whatever the questions is coming in your mind, just write down on the paper or write down on notepad, whatever is possible for you. And what is going to happen? Let's say introduction chapter. Once I will complete the introduction chapter, Like each chapter discussion end, I will open the floor and I will take the questions. Okay.
Fine,
So
fine.
then, yeah. So then what is going to happen? Like instead of having back and forth discussion, uh, let me come to a certain point and then I will open the floor. Okay.
Yeah, fine.
So, okay. So now the point is like, so this is the difference. So as far as MDG SAP is concerned, regarding MDM, 2020 is the sunset point for MDM. Already, if I am not wrong, since 2014, if I am not wrong, okay, maybe plus minus 1 year here and there. Since 2014, SAP has stopped officially to release the service pack for sorry, to release the new versions for MDM. I think they only releases new service pack, or probably that also has been stopped by this time. So that's the whole future of MDM. So SAP's complete plan is to move the business from MDM to MDG. Why? There is a very clear-cut business reason. The first business reason is SAP MDG has been written on ABAP. SAP MDG deal with HANA database. This is the two prime main reason that SAP is looking forward with MDG, where MDM is written on CC++, which is not a programming language which belongs to SAP. So that's the only reason, and also HANA factor is there. Okay, whether it is S4 HANA, because now SAP MDG is also moving with S4 HANA cloud solution. So that is not possible with MDM. So these are all main reason behind it to pushing MDG rather than pushing MDM. Okay. Now coming to the versions. Basically, MDG, the present architecture which we have. Regarding the architecture, we will have a detailed discussion when we will have a regular session. So based on the present architecture, we have the different version like MDG 6.1, 7.0, 8.0, 9.0, 9.1, 9.2. 9.2 just released last year. Last year, October, if I'm not wrong, October or November. Okay, last year or this year, just need to check. Anyway, so very recently this MDG 9.2 came. Now the question is, before MDG 6.1, whether there was any version? Yes, there was MDG 5.0, but MDG 5.0 is now obsolete because the kind of architecture it was dealing with, that architecture is obsolete now. So that's the reason we don't talk about MDG 5.0. So whatever we will talk about, that is from MDG 6.1. Okay. Now, what is the difference between these each and every versions? Basically, if I definitely when we will have a regular session, we will talk about that. But if I talk about a very brief manner, then I can say MDG 6.1 does not deal with SAP HANA database. It's a very baseline version. MDG 7.0 onwards, the introduction with HANA database started. Then it continues with 8.0, 9.0, and categorically from 9.0 S4 HANA introduced. In MDG 8.0 and 7.0, the basic, and 6.1, the basic, another difference is the GUI, the graphical user interface. So that is the one of the very basic difference between these three versions. Uh, in 6.1, the kind of GUI has been used. In MDG 7.0 and 8.0, it's been quite advanced. And not only advanced, GUI is offering new UIBBs, new attributes in the data model, new features like MDG 8.0 onwards, EAM, Enterprise Asset Management, which is another module, another data model. So that came into the picture, apart from material, finance, and business partner, including customer and supplier. And MDG 9.0 also offering data consolidation uh, process, and so on. MDG 9.1, 9.2, more or less same like MDG 9.0, just a few graphical and few small details are here and there, but not a huge change. I can say the huge change basically in between 6.1 and 7.0. The another huge change I can say 7.0 to 8.0, and obviously 8.0 to 9.0. And also in MDG 9.0, Fiori came into the picture. Normally what happened, normally MDG gives by default FPM, floor plan manager. Then apart from the floor plan manager, it also offering Fiori, particularly from MDG 9.0. I think it is also supported in MDG 8.0. But 9.0, it is 100%, I'm sure it is supporting. And also it is offering UI5. Okay, so this is the very brief details about the differences. And when we will go to the regular session, we will have a more difference between each and every version in a detailed manner. So basically, if you divide the role and responsibilities as far as MDG project is concerned, so there are three type of responsibilities. One is architect, functional consultant, and technical consultant, as I was just telling at the beginning of the session. So architect means it's not just the person who is having huge experience. No, doesn't mean. Okay. So it means architect who can play the architect role, the person who having the combined experience with the technical and the functional, and also having the good understanding about the system landscape, because this is the person who is going to engage with the customer at the first hand. So it is very important for this person to be technically and functionally very sound. Second thing is functional consultant. Functional consultant, what is the demand from them? The demand is he or she should have the MDG understanding and the functional understanding like SD, etc., etc. And the technical consultant, obviously MDG, then ABAP and object-oriented ABAP. Okay, if you know the floor plan manager, then plus. If you know the Fiori, then plus. If you know something else, then obviously plus plus. These are all. Okay, so this is the major three category of roles and responsibilities we have as far as the MDG project is concerned. So now back to agenda. So basically in this agenda, we talk about the purpose of MDG for business management and governance. What I was just talking about. Why MDG? I just talked about in a brief manner, but we will have a very detailed discussion on that. Why MDG is required? Why customer is looking for MDG, not with the combination of the solution of ABAP, workflow, SD, FICO. That is another uh, reason to talk about. So then we will have the detailed architecture with the various deployment options. So we have majorly two options. One is MDG on top of ECC, another one is the hub approach. So what is the difference between hub approach and on top of ECC? So they have a little different architecture, and they have obviously pros and cons. Then we will talk about in this chapter the business framework, how the business framework runs, particularly the workflow, how the workflow runs for the different purpose, for create, for change, for mark for deletion, for block unblock, for mass update, etc., etc. And then we will talk about the out of box configuration for material, customer, vendor, business partner, and finance. So basically, out of box configuration is the prerequisite for MDG. So before we start the data model or UI model or process model or workflow, we must prepare the ground for, like, to having the proper business function, to having the proper business object, to having the proper webbed info services, to having the proper business configuration sets, to having the proper authorizations objects. So those things we need to deal with here. Okay, so basically this chapter, if you see, as I just mentioned, it's a very fundamental chapter. You cannot expect much practical things from this chapter because it is having more understand on architectural point of view, process point of view, the prerequisite point of view. So this chapter, I believe that why it is important, because if you skip this chapter, then you are just starting MDG without knowing its history, or without knowing its real purpose, or without knowing its real architecture. So that's the reason we need this chapter to be here. Okay, so now I just open the floor. So if you have any question related to only this particular chapter, then I can able to answer some questions. So anybody has any question?
Aditya, this is Ajay here.
Yeah,
Okay,
this is
please go
Manal
ahead.
here.
Yeah, go ahead. One by one, go ahead.
Um, uh, as per uh, as per MDG, we'll be mostly using workflow in terms of process validation, one after another approach. What is the difference, no, regular workflow and this MDG BRF plus? You talk about some rules, right?
Correct. So we will have the workflow chapter down the line. So if I can answer your question there, is that okay for you?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I will talk about in this chapter. So, yeah, what is the other question?
Yeah. How the MDM relates to uh, hello.
Sorry, I did not understand your question. Can
How
you
do
come again?
how MDM relates with SRM? I used to hear a lot of things in my project. I used to take care different modules in a project, but when it comes to SRM, they talk about MDM issues and like that. So how MDM is related to SRM, or it is out of scope for our discussion?
Uh, First of all, it is out of scope as far as our present discussion is there. Now, if I talk about, because I have a little understanding on that, the question which you are asking for, basically, MDM, MDG uh, replicate the data to SRM. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So MDM, MDG, they replicate the data from mm, uh, replicate the data from MDG and MDM to SRM. Similarly, they also accept the data from SRM. So basically, I can say that the data replication and data import wise, they have a relations. And when you are accepting the data from SRM or when you are replicating the data to SRM, there is a certain configurations which you need to follow. It's not like the straight away configuration what we deal with ABAP system or normal ERP system. So that is the slight difference. But this question is out of our scope. But if you have particular interest on this question, because once last year I deal little bit on this particular item, so probably down the line I can help you whatever I have little understanding on that.
Sure,
Is that
thank
okay
you.
for you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Aditya. And
Okay.
coming to what is the scope for no basis support for MDG if you talk about architecture wise and functional perspective or technical perspective? How do we can segregate no scope of basis? Uh, is suppose basis consultant is not having much exposure on MDG wise. How do we can no segregate the scope of
Okay.
activities whichever
This is
we
a very
require?
valid question. Yeah, this is a very valid question. And exactly this question we will talk about when we will have a regular session, but let me answer you. So this particular topic, that is out of box configuration for MDG material customer vendor business partner or finance. So this particular activity is nothing but the prerequisite activity. So this activity, whatever you see, it is purely carried by the basis team. But basis team does not have the knowledge or experience to deal with such details. So that is the reason we need to understand this prerequisite activity and then we need to guide them. But if you see practically, they will do this entire activity because the relative transaction for this particular prerequisite activity is required. Being a MDG developer, you may not have in your real-time project. So basis has to carry this activity, but you have to guide them which are those business function has to be activated, which are those webbed intro services needs to be present, which are those BC set configuration needs to be present, which are those authorization object has to be present. So those things you need to guide them. You need to provide a complete list. That's the reason we introduce this particular topic in this chapter, because if we know, then only we can guide them. Otherwise they will be like stuck at some point, and definitely they will look at you or they will say, okay, you reach out to SAP and get the details for me, so then only I can carry on. So that's the reason we categorically add this particular topic in our agenda.
Good. Uh,
Okay.
yeah. One more thing. What will be the scope of no GRC role in MDG? Uh, suppose,
Okay.
say for example,
So I
yeah,
understand your question. I understand. So there is a thin line between the basis and the GRC. GRC is basically SAP security. So security mainly deal with the roles and access authorizations. So SAP basis. So for an example, in prerequisite configuration, there are list of configuration as I just mentioned. Out of that, you can see one or two activities needs to be carried by GRC team, and rest of the things needs to be carried by basis team. Now, if I tell you just in a brief way, let's say the business function needs to be activated. This goes to basis, not GRC. Then coming to assign the authorizations object. This goes to GRC, not basis. Similarly, maintain the webbed info services. This goes to basis, not GRC. Another example is to maintain MDG roles. That goes to GRC, not basis. So
Yeah,
there are
this
different
this,
differences.
this last line I'm concerned about. I think I hope you will be clearing no roles wise what we have to take
Yeah,
care whenever.
of course. Of course,
Yeah,
like when we will have the regular session, we will talk about list of out of box configuration task. And every beside the task, I will categorically mention this goes to basis, this goes to SAP security, and also when in the workflow chapter, we will deal with the MDG roles. That time also I will categorically mention that these roles, being a developer, if you have access, then it's well, but you are not supposed to get that access because role is a sensitive item. So that goes to the SAP security.
yes. So you'll be clearing us on no whatever roles required, composite or single roles, whatever it is, business roles. Whether it is a custom specific that depends on the how the project configures the landscape and customization part, right, Aditya?
Sorry, I was I was talking in mute. So yes, that's true. So in the session we will talk about very detailed manner that which for material, for customer, for vendor, for business partner, what are the business functions we have, what are the webbed into services we have, what are the authorization objects we have, what are those BC set configurations we have, and how it will be managed. Every single details we will talk about.
Can I can I can I call this MDG is a no cloud technology?
No. From 9.0 onward, it goes to S4 HANA, but the earlier version, I don't think so, it goes to cloud. So I cannot say, but partially, if it is going to S4 HANA, then we can say cloud.
Okay. So as of now, it's not a cloud, right?
Not in 100%. When
Okay.
if you have S4 HANA, then it's a cloud-based solution.
So you will be covering for us as for HANA part of
Definitely,
this course.
we have this in our agenda.
Okay. Yeah, looking forward for the training, Aditya. I was quite impressed with your no, demo sessions which are there in YouTube. I was impressed on that. So looking forward to no, continue
Raja,
that.
if you have any question, otherwise I will continue.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So let me move on. Uh, let's talk about the data model. So then, sorry to stop you because this agenda is pretty lengthy. So I have to be complete it in a little restricted manner. So sorry for that. So now coming to the data model. So here in from this chapter, the real practical challenges will start. So from this chapter, we will try to explain more on the practical side and less on the theoretical side. Yes, theoretical discussion will be there wherever it is necessary, but we will focus on more practical side. Now, in this particular chapter, we will create three different scenarios or three different demonstration. One is the custom data model, another one is the standard data model, and the last one is the enhancement of the standard data model. Now, in the custom data model, we will show that if you want to create one data model, a completely new data model which is not exist at all in the framework, how to deal with that, how to create the respective entity types, entities, the respective relationships, and so on. And similarly, the standard data model, like how to deal with the finance, the BP, including customer and vendor. These are all standard data model. The standard offering entity types, entities, relationships, how to deal with that. And the third and the most important topic is enhancement of the standard data model, because enhancement of the standard data model is something which you are going to deal with your real-time project. This is the thing which you are going to deal with. So you have data model, you have BP data model, you have finance data model, and your customer is looking forward to extend them with some custom entity types, with some custom attributes, because they have some custom scenarios. So how to do that? How to enhance the data model with custom entity type? How to enhance the data model with custom attributes? For that, what are those configurations we need to follow? And then only the discussion start on reuse active area, sorry, the reuse mode and the flex mode. Okay, what is reuse mode, what is flex mode, what exactly the configuration I need to deal with in reuse mode, and what exactly the configuration I need to deal with the flex mode. So everything comes into this particular enhancement of standard data model, including SMT, mapping, etc., etc. So particularly this chapter is, I can say, from the real MDG point of view, it's a first chapter, because from here you start the MDG development. Earlier chapter was fundamental chapter. This chapter is a real start for MDG. So as I was just talking about, so basically we will talk about develop of custom data model, obviously hands-on. So I categorically mention hands-on. That means we will have the potential demonstration on that, and then we will have discussions on the various details, because in the data model there are various details that we need to talk about. Then we have the enhancement of BP and finance data model, OG. OG is nothing but finance. And under this enhancement, we will particularly talk about add the custom field in the standard data model, add the custom entity type in standard data model, the CVI mapping. CVI mapping is categorically for business partner, and Genil model. Again, Genil model is for business partner as well. Okay. So again, for CVI and Genil model, we will have a separate hands-on. Okay. So this is the data model chapter where we will have the end-to-end details about the data model. Okay. Now let me quickly talk about process model, and then again I will open the floor for the further questions. Now process model. First of all, we need to understand what is process model. By the way, one basic question I missed out. First of all, that why data model is important. That's very good. We are doing custom data model, standard data model. We just talked about enhancement of standard data model. But why this data model? What is this data model having? So basically, this data model is nothing but your warehouse, the first level warehouse, where if you are dealing with, let's say, material, then based on material, whatever the necessary attributes you need in order to prepare that material based framework, This data model is offering you not only that, the respective relationships, the respective the mappings, and the respective structures, the backend structures, everything it has. So it is giving you the first level of framework where your basic entities, entity types, the basic relationships are built in. And then down the line, if you want to enhance them, you can obviously go ahead and enhance them. Okay. Then coming to process model. Similarly, why process model? Why we need to learn process model? Process model is giving the understanding about the processes. So what kind of processes we have? Like create, change, mark for deletion, block unblock, mass update, mass change, multiprocessing, data import activity. So these are all different processes we have. So again, like data model, in this chapter also we will create majorly 3 to 4 demonstration, and with this demonstration our objective is first to talk about the custom process model. So whatever the custom data model we just created in the data model chapter, the relative custom process model we will build in. So we will go in a step-by-step method, step-by-step process. And then we will talk about the standard process model. For material, what are those process details we have? So basically in this chapter, we will deal with the change request. We will deal with the business activity. So what is business activity? What is change request? So if I just tell you in a brief way about the change request, so everything and anything we will do in MDG, that is through change request. Okay. So based on material, what are those change request types we have based on the different processes for create, for change, for mark for deletion, for block unblock, etc., etc. Similarly, for customer, what are those different change request type we have? For supplier, whatever the different type of change request type we have. For finance, whatever the different type of change request types we have. So every data model we will talk about with the different change request type. Then we will talk about the enhancement of the standard process. Now, if you want to enhance that process for a specific project, how you can enhance them? What are those basic configuration you need to take care? That we will talk about. So if I talk about this particular chapter, we will talk about develop custom process model and and enhance standard process model for BP, finance, as I just mentioned. So everything will be with the hands-on, and activate type linkage. Activate type linkage is basically the linkage between the sequence of the process execution. So how the sequence has been maintained for any kind of process execution. So that we need to understand. And apart from that, in this particular chapter, we will talk about business activity, change request, change request type, change request status, change request priority, change request reasons, change request means detailed about the change request. The basic tables which is deal with the different change request activities. So everything comes under this particular chapter. Okay. So now I'm just opening the floor. So if you have any question so far, like not only related to data model or process model, in fact, in first chapter, if you have any question which you missed out, you can ask this question. Yes, please go ahead. If you have any question,
Yeah, I
Ming
have
out.
one basic question actually.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, what is the license cost? What is the license cost? Just means overview. What is the license cost if we are going for MDG? So
License cost. Uh, MDG license
yes,
cost you are
like
asking?
you- yes, correct. Because while you're giving demo, we need to means what is the extra cost that is means if you're going for a fresh MDG implementation or something like that, greenfield type.
You mean, let me understand your question. You mean when you are purchasing the license from SAP, what exactly the cost include in that, right? With the specific version.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
correct,
Mm,
absolutely correct.
this is a interesting question and tough question for me to answer because I never been into this process because this is something which deal with management. Okay, so I
Yes, yes.
never
Because
been.
we need
Yeah,
to at times we are facing such while presenting to the client or the management. That's what is the exact from the existing process. What is the exact cost it will us provide?
I don't have answer, but I can tell you how you will get the details. Uh, you can do one thing. I do believe that you have um, SAP support access. So if you can create one SAP incident, OSS incident, and raise this to SAP, so probably SAP can answer in a better way. Okay, but I'm sorry, I don't have this answer.
And one more, because while I'm migrating our system from are we going to means, cover the list of activities when we are moving on from moving on to S4 HANA system for existing MMD?
Definitely,
What kind
definitely
of
that basic
applications?
configuration on S4 HANA will be covered. I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. We have down the line that topic. Okay. Any other question you have?
And currently we are running the MDG on non-HANA system actually. So can we see that? Can we tell that this is a MDG or MDM system because we are running MDG on non-HANA system. So it is still
Yeah,
MDG, right? Which
definitely.
version is it?
Still MDG. Still, see, HANA is a backend. HANA is a backend database. But MDG is something which, see, first of all, let me tell you, when we will have a regular session, it's a very interesting question which you ask. And this question is very important to clear at the very beginning session itself. Otherwise, you will have a long confusion on that. So let me help you on this. So basically, MDG is nothing but a ECC system. It's means in normal ABAP system, whatever the transactions you are supposed to get, every single transaction you can access in MDG system. So MDG is nothing but one ECC system. Then what extra you have in MDG which you don't have in ABAP? That is the MDG related transaction access. So basically as I just mentioned, in the out of box configuration, we just activate the business functions in as a prerequisite. So the moment we activate the business function, what is going to happen? The not only the relative data model we will get, or not only the relative MDG stuff we will get, also we will have the respective transaction access or transaction authorization. Okay, so MDG system means it is an ECC box, and it is having the or it is having or it is offering the MDG related transaction access or MDG framework it is offering you. nothing more than that. So now whether it is backend, I have Oracle database, or I have HANA database, or I have S4 HANA, doesn't matter. That is coming second. First thing is your SAP MDG. Remember one thing, your when you are taking a role in a project as a MDG developer, you have to focus on your MDG part. It does not mean you need not to think about the HANA and other things, but you are not a HANA developer. You are a MDG developer. So MDG part is remain same, whether it is on top of Oracle, on top of HANA, on top of S4 HANA. Now, what is the difference whenever this HANA and S4 HANA came into the picture? Particularly if I talk about search and duplicate check, because search and duplicate check you need to directly encounter with the database. So for search and duplicate check, if you have Oracle database, you have different set of configurations to carry on. If you have HANA database, you have to do the different set of configuration. Okay. And if you have S4 HANA, then you should have a different set of configuration. That's the only difference. But it does not mean that today you are on Oracle and tomorrow when you are going to S4 HANA, your entire concept of data model, process model, UI model is going to change. No, not a single thing is going to change. On MDG, everything is remain same. Just your backend database is going to change. Okay.
Okay.
So we will have a detailed discussion, but for the time being, to answer your specific question is doesn't matter whether it is Oracle or HANA, your system you will call it as MDG as long as it is offering you the MDG framework.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So any other question?
Hello.
Yes, Raja, tell me.
Yeah, I have one question. How do you take care the performance wise as a point of MDG developer? How do I can standpoint on performance wise?
Okay. So in SAP MDG, this is one of the very challenging factor because you know that we have a transaction called NWBC, NetWeaver Business Client. So NetWeaver Business Client is a very sophisticated interface. So obviously, as I just mentioned, we deal with change request, and whether we are creating, whether we are changing, whether we are doing mark for deletion, every single processes we are dealing with the change request. And if we do not have enough capacity to deal with or to have the CPU utilization or to have proper memory allocation, then that will directly have an impact on your change request process. So in terms of that, you can see that NWBC is not opening, or change request is not processing, or it is taking longer time. So for that, there are some certain points which we need to take care, particularly the CPU utilization, particularly the memory allocation. Now, how to maintain those memory allocation, how to identify this is the memory allocation which we need to capture, everything will be talked about in this out of box configuration. That's what the prerequisite is very important, because in the prerequisite it is giving you the exact measure in order to have the smooth process.
Yeah, Aditya, I totally satisfied with your listing. One more thing, I'm not aware of what exactly the change request. Can you elaborate a bit more on what exactly a change request is?
Yes, sure. Just give me 1 minute. Let me take a glass of water. Just 1 minute. Sorry, I have a very bad throat infection. Okay, so your question was particularly that to understand what is change request. Okay, so this is the MDG system, and if I just show you, so you can see, so this is MDG ECC 6.0. So as I was talking about, so MDG is nothing but the ECC box, and it is having the enhancement package 8. Okay, earlier we were using enhancement package 7. Now it is upgraded with the enhancement package 8. Now let me give you a little understanding about the change request. So we go to NWBC. NWBC is nothing but our launchpad for launching the different processes. So let's say, material governance, for an example. So under the material governance, we have the different processes like create, change, mark for deletion, etc. Okay, so when I'm going to click on create, what is going to happen? So you can use this service to create a material. The system creates a change request which is used to approve and track the changes. So instead of using the transaction mm01, so this is transaction mm01, in order to create material, I'm creating the material through the change request. So the moment I click on create material, what happened? One one navigation screen will appear, and this screen we call it as a initial screen. Okay, let it be. So this screen we call it as a initial screen. In this screen you can see we have the material number, we have the change request type, and we have some other details as well. So here we give the change request type. Okay, so let's say I want to give my change request type. So this is one enhanced change request type. which I have created for create material purpose. Continue. And that will again navigate to another screen. It is better to open Chrome in order to get the fast service. Okay, so this is nothing but the change request. So you can see this is a change request, and every change request having its unique identity number and its description. I can obviously change the description. Okay, and the priority, again I can change the priority. Then reason, and then status of the change request, then the change request type, and then followed by
Aditya,
the.
can you share your screen?
My screen is already shared.
Okay.
Everybody can see my screen. Can you please confirm?
Yes, Aditya.
Okay. Then it followed by the basic details. So basic details means the material. So here you can see material temporary number, because this change request will go for the further approval, and once the complete approval will done, then only the material will get the permanent number. Before that it will have the temporary number. Then it will have the unit of measure details, material type, industry sector. So all those now important field comes thereafter. Then description, then we have classification. Then based on the classification, we have characteristics, we have dimensions, we have GTIN details, and so on. So this is nothing but a change request. So instead of going to MM01, we are basically providing this information about the material on a specific UI, and that UI we submit, and the moment we submit it goes to next level for the further approval, and once all the necessary approval done, then it will create the permanent material number. So that's the whole idea behind this change request. Okay, clear this point?
Yes, Aditya. What I understood from you is, so we are just creating no some material information from the MDG screen from NWBG. So then only after we are getting necessary approvals from the different approvers, then only it will create a material information in the ECC system.
You are absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So first, the data creates in MDG, then it replicates to the respective target system. The target system can be ECC or it can be non-ECC system as well.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So change
Let
request
me.
number will be issued from the system itself, right? Dynamically.
These are all. These are. It has specific number range object. So from that number range object, it appears.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other question anybody has? Okay. I can see a couple of people have joined. Gautam and Suresh, can you able to hear me?
Sorry, I'm on road actually.
Okay, okay, no problem, no problem.
Please carry on.
Yeah. Okay, okay, okay. Now let me come to the UI modeling. So the next question is why UI modeling? The answer is that just now we have seen that we are not going to deal with MM01 or XK01 or XD01. We are going to deal with the change request, and every single process which we have, that is going through the change request approvals. Okay, not only the processes, also apart from the process, we have, let's say, uh, mm, we want to identify some SLA report. That is also we need a specific UI interface. You can see in the NWBC screen, in this screen. So this is the processes: create, change, mark for deletion. Apart from that, we have mass change, we have file upload, we have file download. These are all processes. Then to display a specific change request or to identify whatever the change request I have created, that details, and to show the proper reporting. So based on the priority, if I want to see the processing time or the status of the report, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, those report we can see here. And we have the replication and data import. So everything is happening on UI, everything. So none of the items we are doing through the SAP transactions. So normally what we do, let's say we can use if I talk about just normal ABAP. In normal ABAP, if I want to send one material from system A to system B, then I can easily use the transaction BD10. But here it's not like that. Here we will replicate it, and then we will monitor it. So everything will be happen on UI, and the things will be taken care at the background process, not through any specific transactions. Okay, so that's the reason UI is very important. Apart from that, we just have seen right now the change request. But let's say if I want to make any specific field read only or invisible, or I want a specific custom field to be appeared here and to have that F4 values. So these are all activities we will be done through the UI. Okay, so in the UI chapter, again, like what we have seen in data model and process model, in UI chapter, again we will create three different demonstration. One is for custom UI model, which will be the continuation of whatever we have created in the custom data model. Then we will have the standard UI model, and we will have the enhancement. In enhancement UI, basically what exactly we are going to see, whatever the custom field we have included in the data model, that is now coming on UI. And not only that, as I just mentioned, it will have more logic with that, like to make some certain field mandatory, or to make some certain field grayed out, or to make some certain field uh, mm, uh, uh, hide or invisible, or sometimes let's say uh, mm, the moment the change request submit, when it goes to the next level, certain field automatically will be hide, and that level when it approve and goes to another next level, then only it will flash. So that means if I have requester, verifier and approver, three different level, and if I want to hide some of the field from the verifier level, that also can be manipulated through this UI process. So basically, in this chapter, we will talk about configuration details for floor plan manager, because MDG by default is offering with floor plan manager, FPM. FPM is the advanced concept of WebDin Pro. Okay, and in this particular topic, we will talk about the different type of configurations which we have in FPM. Then, as I just mentioned, we will develop the custom UI model. Then we will talk about the enhancement of the standard UI model with the hands-on, obviously. And then we have this feeder class implementation, as I was just telling you, to make one certain field hide, or to make one certain field mandatory, to make one certain field read only, to make one certain field value as a F4 value. So these are all things which we call it as a UI field properties. It's a UI field property activities where we will extend the UI feeder class. So what is feeder class? Feeder class is nothing but a global class which lies behind the UI, and that feeder class we need to identify that what is the exact feeder class we have for a specific item. So let's say for an example, I want to make material group. Normally material group is not a mandatory field as far as material creation is concerned. I want to make material group as a mandatory field. Then what is going to happen? Then I need to identify what is the behind feeder class which we have, identify them, go to that feeder class, extend the relative method, and then make a proper logic where the material group will be mentioned as a mandatory field. Okay, so this is how we deal with this develop UI field properties based on various business requirements with the feeder class implementation. Okay, so this is one of the very important chapter as far as MDG is concerned, because everything, as I just mentioned, everything and anything we deal with change request. So when change request is everything, so definitely uh, mm, it's a UI. Change request is nothing but a UI, and then we will have a lot of work on UI, right? All the custom fields, all the custom logics which is coming on UI ultimately. Okay, now moving to the next chapter, which is search and duplicate check. Search and duplicate check, this particular chapter, we will now in this chapter I'm not going to say, okay, I'm going to create three different demonstration. No, it's not like that. In this chapter, definitely we will create the demonstration, but particularly in this particular chapter, we will talk about majorly three different type of search. One is the database search, next is enterprise search, and third is HANA based search. So these three different type of search we will talk about in this chapter, and we will have the respective configurations. So first of all, why search is important as far as MDG is concerned? Search is important because whatever the master data you are creating, whether it is a supplier data or it is a material data, whatever you are creating, first of all, you need to see that data on your framework, right? So that is number one. So let me show you. Let's say I want to see some supplier data. Okay, search supplier. Okay, and let's say I'm doing some random search. So click on search, and you can see there are plenty of records which we have. Now I can open the record and I can see the record. Not only just for display, I can change the record from here. If I want to do any further change with this particular record, I can do it through this edit button. Okay, so that means search is not only for just search and display, also we can edit it. Or let's say I search this data, I select it, and this record, this record, I can block it. I can do the mark for deletion, anything, whatever I want, I can do accordingly. Okay, so that is also I can do. So that's the reason search is important. Now coming to the duplicate check. Duplicate check goes with search in hand to hand, because if you don't have search, you cannot perform duplicate check. That is very sure. So the idea of having the duplicate check is when you are creating or when you are changing some master data, at the final stage when you are submitting, it will notify you, or rather I will say it will give you a pop-up that whether you are creating any potential duplicate record or not. That's the major use of having this duplicate check. Okay, now again for duplicate check we will do the necessary configuration for for BP, for finance, and then in this chapter we will have the understanding of S4 HANA with MDG. As I was talking about, whenever this HANA or S4 HANA came into the picture, the relative configuration comes with MDG. So there are certain, because why this configuration is necessary, because now MDG is going to deal with S4 HANA or HANA database. Okay, so for that we have a specific configurations, and that will help categorically for search and duplicate check. So those configuration we need to understand. But as I just mentioned earlier, now also I'm mentioning that the basic MDG concept will remain same, whether it is HANA or S4 HANA or whatever it is. Okay, your basic MDG details or whatever you have in the data model, whatever you have in UI, that will remain same. Okay, now moving to the workflow modeling, and then I will open the floor. Workflow modeling is very important chapter as far as MDG is concerned. I can say this is a kind of a backbone of the whole agenda. So basically, why workflow? Again, because when you are dealing with change request, obviously you need to submit that change request, and that change request will go to verifier, approver, and so and so. So that process will be created through workflow. And obviously, in this chapter also, I'm not going to say that, okay, I will create 2 demonstration, 3 demonstration. No, because workflow is always unique. It cannot be possible that Someone can say, okay, the workflow is, I'm using just the standard workflow in project A and as well as project B. No, not possible. You can use standard workflow template, but your ultimate workflow process is unique process, because every organization is different, every project is different, and they are unique. So that's what in this particular chapter I will create one end-to-end example or demonstration where we will create the rule-based workflow. Because as I just mentioned earlier, as far as MDG is concerned, MDG definitely, MDG also deal with simple workflow, but when your customer is spending hell lot of money, they are not going to use this simple workflow. They are going to use the rule-based workflow, because rule-based workflow is a combination of workflow and the business rule. And not only that, in fact, let's say for an example, if you want to put a logic, like if X field value is 1 or 2 or whatever it is, then then sorry, then your workflow will go to some Mr. A or Mr. B. That means based on a specific field value, your workflow direction also can be changed. So this is something which I'm not saying that it is not possible through simple workflow, but the process is not user friendly, where the rule based workflow is much user friendly process. Okay, so basically with this workflow, uh, we will create one end-to-end workflow uh, related to the rule-based workflow. Now, in this particular chapter, under the rule-based workflow, there are two type of workflow. One is single processing, another one is the parallel processing. Single processing means, let's say you have, first requester, then verifier, then approver, and the things are coming one after another, step by step. This is called single processing, where the parallel processing says, let's say requester submit, it goes to verifier 1 and verifier 2, then it goes to approver 1 and approver 2, and finally it goes to the final stage, final approver. So what is happening? At some point, your change request is running parallelly, right? It's not like this. It is quite different. That's what we call it as a parallel processing. Okay. In this particular chapter, we will only talk about the single processing. And the next chapter, which is validation and derivation, which is a continuation chapter of workflow. In this chapter, we will talk about the parallel processing. I'm coming to that particular chapter. So this chapter, basically, we will demonstrate the rule-based workflow. And while demonstrate the rule-based workflow, we will deal with change request step type, actions, different approval procedures through rule-based workflow. And in this chapter, we will also deal with the MDG roles. So when you have requester, verifier, approver, etc., then definitely the different roles comes into the picture. So those roles will be created by or maintained by the GRC team or the SAP security team. So this is what I was talking about. So what exactly needs to be maintained? How it needs to be maintained? What are those different roles we have? Everything we will talk about in this chapter. And of course, how we will utilize this role in workflow. Okay. Now, validations and derivation, as it is a continuous chapter of a workflow, let me complete this and then we will take some questions. So in this chapter particularly, so first of all, what is called validations and derivations? Validations means basically like I want to validate some field. So that means whatever the field value I have maintained, whether that value is proper or not. So that is a kind of a validation. So that means validate my process. That is validation. Derivation means based on a particular value, when another field value is appearing, let's say field A, the moment I'm putting the field A value as a 1, the field B reflecting another value as B1, let's say. So based on one field value, another field value is reflecting. That is nothing but the derivation. So basically in this chapter, what we are going to deal with, in this chapter, we will deal with two things, BRF plus and above body. And we have in this chapter service body and rule body. Under the service body, we have parallel processing. That means parallel workflow. Then we have email notification. Then we have dynamic agent selection. And then we have the rule context preparation. So these are all different processes under the service body, and we will create the different demonstration for each and every process. Different demonstration, because every topic is different than each other. Then coming to the rule body, under the rule body, we will have the single entity validation and cross entity derivation. So again, with the proper example, we will talk about what is single entity and what is cross entity. And this is purely a technical chapter. And obviously, as you all are belongs to a technical team, so definitely it will be quite easy to understand for all of you. Okay. So basically, if I say in this chapter, we talk about the basic understanding on data validations in terms of MDG processes and develop different types of service body, rule body using the BRF plus decision table in workflow. This whole sort of details. Okay. Yes. Now we can take some questions. So if you have some questions, anybody has any question?
Yes, what is the need of this BRA plus?
BRF plus is the need is, as I was just telling you, that
What is the need of BRA plus? Because I'm into the picture.
yeah, I understand your question. As I was telling that BRF plus is, let's say for an example, let me give you one example which will be easy for you to understand and for me also to explain. Let's say uh, I want, if my unit of measure value is each means we indicate is the unit of measure value is each, which denoted as EA, then it will go to the next level. Otherwise, it will not allow at all. How you will do it? One way is obviously you can write the above logic and you can do the restriction. Another way is to deal with BRF plus. So basically in BRF plus, we will able to create different objects. So if I talk about this example, in BRF plus, I will create a object called unit of measure, and then this object I will restrict in the workflow decision table. Okay, so that's the use of the BRF plus. So basically it will create a rule within the workflow. It will help to create a rule within the workflow. Okay, so that's the use of BRF plus. Okay, hello, can you able to hear me, Mridal?
Yeah, Aditya.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
okay. Yes, tell me.
Yeah, Aditya, as per my knowledge, I know the workflow monitoring perspective, what is rule and all. So I'm not knowing anything about BRF plus. Will you be covering from ABCD from the BRF plus, right?
Definitely, you need not to worry because when it's when it is a part of our agenda, it doesn't matter what you know, what you don't know. We will take care completely. That's not an issue at all.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so let me move on. So we have two more chapter. So one is the data replication and import. So in this particular chapter, basically we will talk about the data replication. Now, data replication we have two way. One way is through ALE-IDOC approach with change pointer, what we do in normal ABAP project. That is one way, and we will create one complete demonstration with this ALE-IDOC with change pointer. Another approach is the DRF, which is data replication framework. Okay, the data replication framework is categorically required for MDG. Now you can say, uh, let's say I don't want to use DRF at all. Can I only use ALE-IDOC with change pointer in MDG? Yes, it is possible. But MDG is offering you that apart from ALE-IDOC, DRF is also ALE-IDOC concept, but it is an extended approach of ALE-IDOC change pointer approach. So in data replication framework, which is only available in MDG framework, you can replicate your data from MDG to one or more than one target system. So we will create another demonstration for DRF. So basically two demonstration, one for ALE-IDOC, another one is for DRF. This is related to the data replication. One more thing I would like to talk about. I will also talk about the SOA services. Okay, SOA services. However, majority of the SOA services configuration will be taken care by the basis team, but I will go through the configuration which is necessary for the SOA services. Mainly SOA services used for finance and supplier, and DRF can be used for material, customer, supplier, business partner, finance as well. Custom model if you have custom model as well. Okay, so this is replication. Now coming to the data import. In the data import, we will first talk about the file upload, file download. this process, obviously with hands-on. Then DIF, Data Import Framework. Again, this is only available in MDG. You may get the file upload and file download feature in above system, but you cannot get this DIF. DIF is only possible or available in MDG system only. So by using this DIF, basically we will understand how we can import the data to the MDG framework. Then we have mass load creation and mass change. So how we can do, or I can just say mass change or update, because DIF will take care the mass load create as well. So mass change and update. Okay. So this is related to the data import activity. So now look back. So here, develop the data replication process using ALE IDOC change pointer and the DRF with hands-on. Then data import framework DIF. Then file download and file upload approach. Then mass change and update process. Okay, so this is related to the data replication. And the last chapter is the enrichment chapter. So basically in this chapter, I will talk about some case studies, which is categorically very commonly used for all sort of projects. Okay. Secondly, I will talk about some generic issues. In fact, let me tell you honestly, I will not wait for this chapter to come to talk about the generic issues. Whenever, while going through all the different chapters, wherever I will see something, some issues which is a generic issue to talk about, I will definitely touch upon that. So it's not like that I will wait for this chapter to come and then I will explain. Okay. The next is MDG consolidation concept, which is one of the latest concept, which uh, uh, started with MDG, if I'm not wrong, 8.0, or mostly right now it's using with 9.0 grandly. But obviously consolidation is not necessary for all the project. It is optional, and when it is required, why it is required, that we will see in detail whenever we will talk about. And then we will talk about the EAM model, enterprise asset management. Okay, so this data model, this is a new data model which basically introduced by Utopia with the joint venture uh, with SAP, and it has been introduced with MDG 8.0. So this data model, what is the significance of this data model? What exactly this data model is offering? So these are all things which we will talk about here. So this is one rough understanding about the whole agenda. And as I just mentioned earlier, total 40 to 45 hours will be required. It may goes up, but definitely not down minus. Why it will make plus? Because sometimes uh, we are in a group, right? So there are few people. So some people need some more explanation, or some people need however we complete that, but need to revisit that topic one more time. So I cannot say no, right? So in that case, I need to revisit. I need to. My target is very clear that each and every topic I will try to cover as detailed as possible. But I am not going to bore you. That is for sure. That's what I focus on, more practical side rather than theoretical side. I will categorically talk about the specific item and then we'll go to the next topic. Okay. So this is the whole idea so far, and this is the system which you have already seen. So the access of this system will be given. Uh, I think I don't know about how many months that you need to just talk to coordinator. I think for 6 months, if I'm not wrong. So whatever, because in this system only we will do all sort of demonstration. So offline you will have an opportunity to see that and can practice in this system. Okay. So I think that is all my end. And if you have any question, yeah. So please, if you have any question, otherwise I will close the session.
Aditya Gautam here.
Yes, tell me.
So are you going to teach us through S4 or normal MDG 8 ECC system?
Sorry, your voice was breaking. Tell me one more
Are
time.
you going to take up the classes on S4 MDG or ECC MDG?
I think you have missed out. We are going to take the class on S4. It's basically S4 HANA is the database, and ECC is nothing but the 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 system. Like MDG is nothing but a ECC system, but the backend is S4 HANA. So that is what we have. So the system which you see here, this is nothing but our ECC system. This is one ECC 6.0 enhancement package 8, and the backend we have S4 HANA. Okay.
Okay. A couple of questions regarding
Yeah, please.
MDG. So are we going to deal with hierarchies also?
Yes, I will talk about hierarchy, but it is not in our agenda. But I will touch upon that.
Okay. How about APIs concept?
Of course, without API, you cannot execute none of the process what we have in with data validations and derivations or in feeder class enhancement. So API is definitely required. We will talk about in detail API mm, like governance API, convenience API, then change request API. So all sort of API we will cover up.
Okay.
So that basically comes in this chapter, validations and derivations. Or
Are we?
I don't mind
Uh,
if I can explain in this UI chapter as well. But API is must. Without API, you cannot execute anything.
okay. So,
Yeah.
see, are we going to deal with standard entities or custom entities throughout this
I think
40
Gautam,
hours?
I think you missed out this
Yeah,
discussion.
I just,
I I
yeah, I almost joined 1 hour back.
I
That's it.
I know you joined late. I would like to
Right.
say you go through the video. I
Okay.
talked about in a very detailed manner. Okay,
Okay.
you go through it and please let me know if you have any detail, any question on that.
So, can I drop you a mail, something like, if I have any questions?
Of course, you can drop a mail to coordinator, and
Okay.
first you watch it because uh, mm, I do believe 80% of your question will be answered here. And then still if you have anything, I will definitely help you.
Yeah. Thanks, Aditya. I'll take care.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. So anybody else? Anybody has any question? Okay. So I'm going to send this or
One small questions.
yeah, tell me.
Yes, by any chance, can we launch in the Fury application this MDG application, whatever this you're doing? Because
Let me
by
tell
any
you.
way, can we launch the Fury launchpad? Something like that.
Let me tell you.
Yeah,
Let me
can you
tell you. Let me tell you. You know the biggest part is I don't know Fury. That is the biggest part. We can launch it, but I don't know Fury. In fact, I am also learning Fury. Okay, so whatever I have the skill set that is on FPM. That is what you can see, that whatever we talked about, particularly for UI, we just talked about the floor plan manager, because majority project demand FPM, which is come by default with MDG. But yes, there are some project which now asking for Fiori, but Fiori is a different module itself. Okay, if I mix up the Fiori with MDG, already you can see just to have the demo, it's been more than 1 hour, right?
that?
So now you can understand means how much big the content is. Okay, so that's what 40 hours, 40 to 40 hours I'm saying, but the practical, if you see, it's more than 50 hours because the content is huge. So if I include Fury within it, means it will be very difficult.
No, 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 not
So
like
that's,
Fury.
yeah.
Just a basic step. Just a basic step. What are the
I-
building
I'm
will?
also learning. The good part is when you are asking this question, I'm also learning Fury at the simultaneously. So let's see if I can help you at some point.
Yeah, Aditya, the point here is we just need how you integrate with Fury. That's the only part we need.
Okay, 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 fine.
If you can do
I
that,
will.
that's more than enough. Yeah.
Okay, okay. But don't expect from me 100% because I am also learning this.
Yeah.
Okay, but
No, the
whatever
concept
I
here is how your API going to integrate with Fury applications.
I
If you
I
can,
understand
yeah,
completely. Yeah, definitely. I will help you on that.
thanks.
Okay, okay. So any other question? Anybody has? Okay. So I'm going to send this agenda. If you don't have, uh, you can collect it from coordinator, and also I'm going to send this Excel sheet. Okay. So this Excel sheet will be a kind of a at a glance for you. However, we don't have much information here, but still, as we discussed, so I can share with you. So, and then go through the video if someone missed out. So, and then if you have any question, and you are welcome to write down the questions to coordinator, and I will definitely help to answer those questions. Okay. And one request, uh, don't call this session as a training or teaching. I don't like this word. I like to call this as a discussion. So it is, we all are professional, right? So it's just a discussion. Yeah, I know little bit which I am discussing with all of you. So let's not call this as a training or teaching or something. Um, I whatever I know, I will just discuss with all of you. So it's just a small request. Thank you. Okay, so uh, any question before I log off?
Thank you, Aditya.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Thank
bye.
you, Aditya. Raja
Yeah,
here.
thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Yeah, bye.